Welcome back, everybody. We are back for game number 2 of our gym class feeders here. And hopefully this game keeps up the intensity that we saw in the first game. Pretty back and forth game. Very exciting. But hopefully this game actually ends.
And hopefully has a bit more climactic ending. Backdoors are good when they're a race. Not so much when, well, one team's sitting at Dragon and the other team just ends the game.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good capitalization by the blue team there, who will now be on the red side.
Should we name these teams? Come
I
up
don't
with
know.
something
I don't
entirely creative, or just keep referring to them as colors?
I don't know. Do you want to name the teams?
I don't particularly care, though now they're both purple teams.
Let's
which
let
does seem to be a bit of a
chat
problem.
name the teams. Chat, would you like to name the teams? All right. We have the Lord's Army, which will be the blue team for this game. And what do we have for the red side for this game? Yes, very humble. The most humble gentleman we have in the chat right now.
So I go.
As we roll into champ select here, we see that Shen gone. Definitely did a lot of work for Wraith last game. Not terrifying enough to take over the game, but definitely enough to be impactful.
My genius will be understood eventually.
Yeah, definitely interesting. I didn't think it did enough to warrant a ban, but globals are a pain, so never hurts to ban.
Ace's team opting to ban the Jhin this time. They don't want to see it in the hands of Randana.
It's odd that it got such an early ban as well, given that ADCs really weren't drafted till later in the draft, but maybe they think the priority will have risen.
We see the blue team opting to ban things that they saw last game. So the only option for champions to return on the red side this game is literally just Thresh. That's it. That's the only repeat they can have. And Thresh into Pyke? I think that's an okay matchup. But the question is that Pyke actually going to be support?
I would imagine it is in this case. Otherwise, it's a top lane Pyke, which I'm not a huge advocate of personally.
What, you don't like jungle Pyke? You don't think it's possible?
I don't think it fits into Sigtal Lord's pool at this point, unless there have been some drastic changes.
Well, Sigtal Lord was a support main at one point, transferred over to the jungle. Perhaps, Pyke could have came with that transfer,
That would be possible if he played Pyke while in the support role, but he did not.
Ace does actually pick up the Jinx this time, not letting it get banned away from him.
Definitely an interesting pick versus a very mobile support in a Pyke.
Well, when you trust in your team, you can literally be a stationary turret, and they will protect you.
This is true, and no Yorick once again as we see the Mordekaiser coming through.
Mordekaiser did do some pretty good work
Pyke.
for them in that last game. Ooh, and we see a Pyke Samira bot lane.
And yes, I think they wish they would have banned the Samir instead of the Jhin. Jin may be a bit steadier, but Samira, if she ever pops off as just a freight train that's gonna beat you in the face.
Now the question is, do we end up seeing potentially like something like an Alistar or a Leona from Smokey to answer that Samira, or do you think this could potentially be a Malphite support?
I certainly hope it's not a Malphite support. I find Malphite support to be one of the most useless things in the first 5 levels, and especially versus a Pike and a Samira, you don't want a useless support in the first 5 levels.
It appears
But
that the blue team agrees that this is not going to be a Malphite support.
definitely interesting.
However,
that
the
they
red
went
team
with-
doesn't think that this is, doesn't like the prospect of this potentially not being a Pike support.
Fair enough.
Opting to
Definitely,
get rid of that Leona, which the Leona was pretty instrumental for the bot lane. For Alonzi Tardis on that Leona last game. Did a very good job on it.
definitely not a huge fan of them picking up the Malphite as their first pick on the red side, given that the Mordekaiser was still available, and Malphite's going to struggle against AP damage, not being his forte.
Well, I guess the alternative is there. That, like, why pick something blind if you don't know what you want to match up into it? Malphite is just kind of something you can pick and just expect to lose the lane. So if you're not looking for a specific matchup in the top lane, you just pick it to get rid of that pick, and then you can opt for a counter pick later.
That's true. Mordekaiser is not one of those things where I just want to lose lane absolutely horribly, given how much of a monster he can be if he just gets free CS, but we'll see how it turns out.
We do see a final lock-in of Master Yi. Do we think
Definitely.
Prowler's been mentoring Sigtal Lord on this Master Yi jungle?
Potentially, and it's definitely not a bad choice, given the lack of point-and-click CC. They do opt for a little bit there at the very end with the Nautilus, but even so, you can Alpha Strike a Nautilus ult quite easily.
Can Samira's W block Nautilus ult?
It's Cancer, so why not?
Because it is point click, but it does also have like the ripples that just like chase you down. So I'm wondering if one of those pops up, can Samira W it and break it all? That's an interesting interaction that we'll have to look for.
Yeah, I think the key in this matchup is going to be if the Akali can just go off, because they really don't have any lockdown for the Samira or the Master Yi if they're able to dodge the Malphite ult. And Samira Ultimate is very good at dodging both of those things in the hands of a skilled player like Brandana.
All right, teams are locked in. You've said your piece on a couple of the matchups. Who are you giving the edge to for this game? Do you think red side's gonna pull through and get another win, or do you think blue side's gonna bounce back?
I honestly need a couple, a little more time to think about it, because this one is definitely interesting. If we're seeing the red side engage into the blue side, I'd want to give the advantage to the red side, but if the blue side is split up and having small fights around the map, I'd have to give the advantage to the blue side. Yourself?
I definitely agree that the red side has an advantage in the team fight matchups. I agree that the blue side most definitely has advantages in a 1-3-1 situation where you put Mordekaiser and Master Yi in the side lanes and have Annie, Samira, and Pike just group up. But the weird thing about that is kind of, why do you put a Pyke with that? Like, the Pyke feels a little out of place if they do go for a 1-3-1, because the Pyke can look for picks, but if you're going to run a Pyke, why not run something instead like a Nautilus or a Thresh? Something that's a little bit more beefy and can tank for a 1-3-1 better?
Something that can disengage, which really a Pyke is not the ideal candidate for.
Oh, Pyke can disengage himself just fine. Just sometimes you care about your carries, you know.
Man, I think I'm gonna have to pick the red team. I don't like picking either
There's
team
some
in this
very
instance.
serious dive potential from the red team. And I think if you swap the ADCs, Samira thrives in the red team's comp a little bit more than the Jinx. The Jinx is obviously going to have a very nice time sitting there with two super engaged tanks. But again, the Samira, Pyke, Annie just feels like a weird group for like the 1-3-1.
Yeah, and 1-3-1 is so hard to execute. I mean, it's even why a lot of people don't like a Shen, because so few teams actually set up the necessary farm push to draw a champion or two to take advantage of that ult and TP before having an objective. So definitely harder to execute anything that isn't specifically team fight focused. So once
As we
again,
roll
weighing in
into
on the red
champ
side.
select here, we're gonna see some pretty quality skins all around. We're lacking a skin for Malphite and Kindred, but also for Samira. Ace getting a little bit into the holiday spirit with his ambitious elf Jinx. I don't know. Who do you want to give this skin war to?
I mean, always glad to give a pity vote. So the red team, or the blue team lost last game, so I suppose we give it to them.
Sometimes I think this anger just weighs me down.
All right, do we think we're gonna see some level 1 shenanigans here, or probably not? It looks like we're gonna see some level 1 shenanigans here. Prowler's in the area.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
He's out for blood.
Who do we think has the actual advantage in the level 1,
30
though?
seconds until minions spawn.
Well, if they're grouped versus not grouped, definitely the blue team here. However,
Yeah, but if
actual
they're
level 1
grouped-
tools, I want to say it's kind of a wash, because you have Pyke Hook, but that's really about it, because you don't have a stun from anyone, maybe the pull from Mordekaiser, but you don't really have any hard CC from the side of the red team either, except for the Nautilus Hook.
You're gonna need it.
Mordekaiser did not start pull either, so. Alright, looks like we'll go back to normal. Something to note, Kindred did not do the early ward recall to swap trinkets this time, so.
One note is, I've never seen Heretic play ADC much, and having him on essentially a jungle ADC is definitely an interesting transition for this matchup.
Yeah, watching Kindred is always kind of interesting to me, because Kindred plays just a little bit different from most other junglers.
Absolutely, she's really the only jungle ADC outside of Twitch. When she plays a lot like Callista, honestly.
Yeah, you're always dancing around in the front line, and we actually see a little bit of bullying going on by the Malphite, but it looks like this wave is just getting slow pushed in.
Yep, and
there's
not,
some trading going back, and now the Malphite's having a bad time.
and it's not entirely unexpected. The first round of skills do a lot of damage for Malphite, but he's so mana intensive that you really can't keep up that pressure. Especially versus a champ that doesn't have to deal with mana whatsoever, and we're seeing that the Malphite really pay a price now.
Yeah. We don't see quite the same thing. It looks like we almost had a fight for Scuttle here, but bot lane from the red side actually just moves up to just make sure that that Scuttle goes over to burn the Heretic. Getting that first stack for Kindred, pretty important. Looking for a potential gank in the mid lane here. Doesn't really find anything except for maybe a little bit of damage. And is Kindred going to find... Oh, the top Scuttle was actually...
And we're seeing some action in the bot lane, really going in hard after the Jinx, and they are going to get her. The Pike.
Fortunately for stream, I completely missed all of that. You're welcome. It looks like we're gonna have a gank in the top lane here. Master Yi is just outside of range to actually get in on this. Burn the Heretic does manage to finish off the kill, and we have supportal combat coming through. A very nice hook from Smokey to finish off Alonzi Tardis with the minion wave.
And in that previous fight that took down the ADCs, as is classic, the ADCs failed to get the kills, and we are having a support-centric game.
Fortunately, Kindred is happily off to 2 stacks already. Master Chi's floating around the mid lane, so is Samir. It looks like Pointy might just try for a dive here. Does finish off the kill, and ends up trading out a lot of... just the flash for Flash Ignite. So, positive summoner trade for the mid lane of the red side. And drew the ADC up to mid also. So a little bit of pressure gained in the bot lane from that.
And really, with 3 champions up there coming from all sides, it was going to be very hard to get out of that. She would have had to blow at least the flash.
Prowler is just bullying this poor Malphite with his level advantage. Malphite walks into lane, just gets ulted and has to recall. Has the TP to get back though. He isn't gonna recall here, he's actually just gonna chug potions. Got a little bit of aggression in the bot lane as well as the top lane. Nothing really develops too much out of either. Kali walks up to check Scuttle, is gonna meet the Mordekaiser. Gets a very nice, clean solo kill on that Mordekaiser, though. And that's going to feel real nice for that Akali in the mid lane, and you hate to see it if you're the Annie. Master Yi coming down, Kindred right behind him. Slow lands, doesn't manage to leap too far. And Nautilus is actually the one that gets caught here. TP coming in from the Malphite, has ulti, does use it, and down goes Brandana. Unfortunately, the stack was on the Master Yi and not the Samira. But that is going to be Dragon for the red team.
Prior to that fight, I was going to say it's very interesting to see the Jinx Nautilus duo being the ones doing the bullying. I would have thought the Pike and Samira would be the bullies in this lane.
Samira's very early levels. She's not super oppressive, but she can get to be pretty aggressive pretty fast. So I guess I'm kind of echoing your statement there. You expect to see a little bit more aggression out of the blue side's bot lane, but when they're this far behind at this point, I don't really blame them. So 400 gold deficit over between the ADCs and 200 between the supports. Yeah, 2 levels is definitely the huge part here. Pointy just grabbing some free plates in the mid lane. And it looks like Sig actually finally made his first back, finally picking up some items here. Man's been out visiting the entire world for 8 whole minutes.
And we're definitely seeing a trend towards the red side already. I wasn't really expecting that in lane phase. I was expecting the lane phase matchups to go more towards the blue team.
TP coming in for the red side, looking to get a quick kill on this Master Yi, but ends up they're gonna get pulled into a 2v3. Malphite shows up.
And we have...
That's pretty bad for the red side, pretty good for the blue side. I think that Kindred was actually able to smite away the blue buff, but that really doesn't matter when you give away the kill gold for it.
And it was slightly toxic. The Master Yi was fighting the blue buff while the rest of his team was fighting the enemy. But worked out in the end, I suppose.
Ult comes through from the Pike, secures the kill on Jinx. Looks like Samira wants more. Just needs to get him a little bit lower. Blue buff is big worth, but you die and give it over anyways, so how much worth can it be, you know?
And blue buff is exceptionally big worth when you're an energy character. And Mordekaiser getting himself in trouble in the top lane again, but Master Yi coming in just in time. And it looks like we're just gonna have a stalemate for now.
I'm actually happy with the results of that, because that could have been pretty disastrous. Looks like we got a rocket coming up, and we're going to... Nope. That would have connected if it were just a second or two earlier. Very unfortunate.
And this bot lane is actually pretty even now. Able to catch up on gold. And actually, Samir was in the lead for a moment there, despite being down in CS.
Pointy actually dies to minions with Annie using that perfectly timed stopwatch to perfectly troll the Akali dive. A little bit of aggressive engagement from the bot side. Turns out to be just a little bit of trading back and forth. 2-level lead in the top lane for this Mordekaiser. Sitting there with Rift Herald, wondering when he's gonna pop it. Master Yi coming in the bot lane. Does get the Alpha Strike off.
But brings in the Master Yi with him, so he Might as well have died where he stood.
Well, he did with the Pike ult coming in to clean it up.
And it looks like we might see a contest on Dragon here, despite the numbers disadvantage. Though Akali is roaming first, so that's temporarily.
Pike does die
mitigated.
before he can get the ulti back off. Akali might does clean up the kill on the Master Yi here, and is looking to finish off this Annie, but it's gonna be pretty scary, especially with that Samira showing up. Nautilus makes his way in. They are gonna look for the Samira, maybe turn to the Annie, misses the hook, and I think that's gonna be it for that skirmish.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate. Smear was clearing up some farm when that fight broke out. Otherwise, it might have been a clear win for the blue side.
Rift Herald is gonna finish off this top tower, get some nice plate gold for Prowler. Right before the plates disappear. Jinx and Nautilus are going to start up the dragon, but the blue team is here to contest this. No TP from Prowler though, so if there's a TP to be called, it'd be from the Malphite, and it couldn't be matched. Looks like we have pretty scary engage coming from the Samira, and Point is just going to look for the assassination on both the carries, gets it paired with the Malphite ult. Jinx walks back in, clears the fight, and a new challenger approaches.
Does the challenger perhaps regret this?
It looks like the red team's just going to say, you know what, we respect that you're scary. We're just going to walk away now. And I don't think that they should have recalled here, seeing that he's still on it. Pike is here, so the Jinx needs to get out of here. Dragon does reset, though.
And it looks like the Jinx really just wanted to give Pike an early Christmas present, doing her job as an elf.
Very ambitious. Fortunately, Point is able to stop the Drake from completely resetting, and Kindred walks in and finishes it off. Do a little stack check on Kindred. Kindred's sitting at 4 stacks right now, so not doing too great as opposed to how things were starting out. Pike looks for the Kindred, lands the hook, flashes, but ends up missing big and dies for it. Samira wants blood and is going to trade out for the Kindred. Both kills landed on the Jinx though, so that's pretty huge.
And we're actually seeing a bloodier
Kali
game this
lands the
game than
E
last.
and just decides to disengage as soon as Tibbers gets called in.
That is what we would call a very good decision.
A very good what now?
Oh no. We had to punt on this one. A very good decision.
Oh. I regret asking you what you said. What?
Yes,
you see the Pike engage.
Thank you for allowing me to atrociously continue.
We see the Pike engaging on the Malphite, taking a little bit of a beating for it. We see the lane swap come through. Samira's here now, so the Malphite's not going to have a good time here. Does get the ulti off, does get out of the Pike ult, but still dies, even with the TP coming through. Engagement on the bot side. Ace might die here, does flash, but still does go down. In the top lane, Pointy's got his dancing shoes on, trying to, very good flash. Does make it just in time, but still goes down. Samira ult, everybody.
Very logical, makes lots of sense, and it's totally balanced. things are looking very good for the blue team here with a solid 6k gold lead and the potential to increase it more with a Rift Herald and Mordekaiser finishing off the bot turret.
Just looking at the gold distribution, half that lead is on this Mordekaiser alone.
Yeah, this kind of goes back to the early point that Mordekaiser is not someone you want to position a Malphite against because Mordekaiser can take full advantage of that early lack of pressure.
That and Pyke is sitting at a 2k gold lead over the Nautilus. 1.5. Not necessarily a spot that the gold lead matters too much, but Pyke always going to make sure there's a huge amount of cash influx anytime he's involved in a kill. Pretty good flame choppers down just to catch Prowler as soon as he goes in, but he's able to ult and reposition, ending up for a double kill for the blue team, but Herald over to the red team. And Jinx sneaks away in the bush.
Very good use of Pink Ward, just to ensure she could actually sneak away.
They're gonna take a walk in the right way. It still is gonna go down here. No ulti to save him. Moneyball looking to get a little bit extra chip damage in. Does get stunned for it and is just gonna go down. You hate to see the point-click stun followed up by the point-click stun follow-up.
I wanted to make a pointy pun there, but I really just couldn't think of one, much to yours and the viewers' delight.
I mean, when you get point-clicked on twice, do you really need any more pointing?
No, but when the player that got point and clicked is also named Pointy Ball.
I guess it must have just clicked. That's a huge Malphite also. Ooh, the W does actually land on the Master Yi, but unfortunately Master Yi doesn't care about slows, so they can't chase down that kill. They're just going to take their Cloud Drake instead. That's going to be the third Drake over to the red side. Ooh, very nice escape / execution from Pointy Ball there.
And this is our second Cloud Soul in a row.
Look, the game's not rigged.
No, it's just trash. Oops, did I say that? Fix your game, Riot.
Fix your spectator client.
That might be
Randana
the
goes
sort of-
back in, interestingly enough. Does actually get to nuke down Ace. Samira tries to get off the ult, but doesn't quite do enough damage before just falling over. Mordekaiser on the side, does find the Malphite with his ult. Malphite trying everything to stay alive, just decides to walk into them and just say, "Leave me, guys. It'll be okay." And in
He's a
fact,
rock. He'll do rock
it
things.
was okay because everyone else was okay. And his sacrifice was not forgotten. So, red side definitely on the back foot here, despite their dragon control. What do you think needs to be done here for them to get back, to get into the driver's seat of this game, aside from Ace getting all the executions with his ulti?
They need to stay away from this monstrous Mordekaiser, get some levels in this Malphite, and
Keep
preferably
getting
get
1,000
some
gold
picks.
bounties put into the Jinx's pocket.
Definitely not a bad thing, but I want it more on the Akali at this point,
That's
given
a
how
very
easily
nice turnaround from the red team. They're capitalizing on a little overzealous engagement, and they're gonna get the Baron out of this. Respawn timer is just about done for the Annie, but
And
not gonna
that's
matter
just
because
about-
Baron's gonna be dead by the time the Mordekaiser can actually interact with them.
And that'll basically even up the gold lead, which was at 6K prior to this whole chain of events.
So if we want to rewind, like 30 seconds, when I asked you what the red team needs to do to get back into this game, we can just say that.
And by that you mean let the
What
blue
just
team
happened
beat
over
us
the
in
last
buffet.
30 seconds.
Here, we're tired of winning. We'd like to hand over our bounties and make this game more interesting, and give you the Baron because we need a handicap and we pity you. That about sum it up?
Well, they did get the first Baron last game, and then it was stolen from them the next game, so they still have the opportunity to lose the next Baron. They are sitting at much better Dragon control than they were last game. Dragon being in their favor 3-0 this time, as opposed to a 2-2 split probably at this point.
Definitely lower farm totals this game, with the exception of the Mordekaiser. Not seeing much farm mid lane or in
We
the bottom.
are seeing a little bit of a fight going on in the bot lane. Akali knowing that he cannot take on this Mordekaiser just yet. Mid inhib turret is cracked. Base is broken. Mordekaiser might be needed here. Looks like they're just gonna... Oh, they're actually gonna engage. Very good ulti from the Kindred to stay alive. Does get executed. Mordekaiser comes in the back. But this Jinx is just so disgusting right now. Jinx is going to be able to kite out the Mordekaiser, and this should be game here. We see the GGs in the chat, even though I keep turning chat off.
Blue team's turret
Oh.
has been destroyed.
Hey, the game's not even done yet. They didn't even finish the other tower and my game's already broken. Come on. Riot, fix your spectator client. Alright, and that should put us... I guess it's not putting us in stats yet. Existence is pain.
And my Spectator client got to about a couple hundred health left on the Nexus. Gotta love it.
Well, I'm currently reconnecting to the game because maybe it'll actually let me see stats then. But, you know. Oh, I actually saw the Nexus die this time. Let's go. It's working now. You just have to leave and come back.
Been destroyed.
And the victory
OMG,
slash...
what a solution.
But the victory slash defeat screen doesn't pop up, so you know.
Wait, then how do we know who won?
Well, the Nexus blew up, but as you can see, there's no stats. Very unfortunate. Let's
It's
see if-
almost like Riot should fix their game.
Well, you guys are just gonna have to take my word that those stats were probably good.
For one team. Not so great for the other.
Stats were probably good for both teams. That was a little bit less of a back and forth game, but it was definitely a slugfest coming from both teams. It looks like we have a little bit of a team shuffle coming up, but we will be back with you for game number 3 in just a couple minutes.